Every single year, men die earlier than Indian women, not by a few days, by years. And if you go look at the data right now, the average life expectancy for an Indian man is more than 3 years shorter than for an Indian woman. 3 years, that is not a small gap. That is an entire chapter of life that men are simply not getting. And yet, nobody's talking about it. No awareness month, nothing meaningful at scale, just silence. And I find that deeply disturbing. Because if numbers were reversed, if women were dying 3 years earlier than men, we would not shut up about it. There would be marches, there would be policy changes, there would be national conversation. But because it is men, we look away, we say boys will be boys, and we move on. So today I want to ask the question nobody wants to ask: why are Indian men dying younger? And more importantly, why does nobody seem to care? Okay, let me start with what the data actually says. According to the UN World Population Prospects and the sample registration system data in India, the life expectancy for men is around 70.5 years. For women, it is around 73.6 years. Now, globally, this gap exists almost everywhere, but in India, the reasons behind it are very specific, very cultural, and very avoidable. This is not biology, this is not genetics. A massive portion of this gap is built by choices, culture, by what we tell men they can feel and what they have to hide.
लड़के ऐसे नहीं रोते।
बॉयज डोंट क्राई। अरे लड़के नहीं रोते यार।
And that is exactly what I want to get into today. Let me tell you about something called the strong and silent rule. It is not an official rule, nobody writes it down, nobody teaches it in school, but every single Indian boy learns it before he turns 10. You do not cry, you do not complain, you do not ask for help. You handle it, whatever it is: job loss, relationship breakdown, family pressure, financial crisis. You handle it quietly, alone, without burdening anyone. Because that is what men does, right? Think about the last time you saw a man openly cry in front of his family. Not at a funeral or a film, just cry because he was overwhelmed, because he was breaking, because he needed someone to hold him together for once. When was the last time that happened around you? And if it did happen, what was the reaction? Was it comfort, or was there just this uncomfortable silence? That discomfort is not accidental, it is trained. It is generations of telling men that vulnerability is weakness, that suffering quietly is dignity, and suffering loudly is embarrassing. And the cost of that training is showing up in the mortality data right now. Here it gets really uncomfortable. India has the highest suicide rate in the Southeast Asian region. According to the WHO, it's not just a small problem but a regional crisis. According to NCRB data, men account for nearly 72% of all suicides in India every single year. Nearly 3 out of 4 people who take their own life in this country are men. And the people between the ages of 18 to 45 collectively account for nearly two-thirds of all suicide deaths in the country. These are not old men at the end of their lives. These are young men, men in their prime, men who had decades left, men who chose to leave because they saw no other way out. And what is the national response? The government has taken some steps. India launched a national suicide prevention strategy in 2022, which is commendable move to articulate a country-wide approach, but the implementation remains deeply inadequate. Mental health infrastructure on the ground is still sparse, helplines are under resourced, and awareness campaigns rarely reach the men who need them the most. We have a strategy on paper, we do not have a system that works in practice. And men are paying for that gap with their lives. Now, let me tell you about three specific things that are quietly killing Indian men, and I do not mean physically killing them with one dramatic event. I mean slowly, systematically destroying their health from the inside over years and decades until their bodies simply give up earlier than they should. The first one is stress without release. The financial pressure on Indian men is something that I do not think we fully acknowledge. From the moment a boy grows up, he is told that his worth is connected to what he provides. His identity is his income, his value is his career, his respect in the family, in society, at the dinner table is directly linked to how much money he brings home. NCRB data confirms this. Economic and financial insecurity, including debt, poverty, and unemployment, account for a significant share of suicide causes among men. And when the pressure becomes too much, when the job is lost, when the business fails, when the debt piles up, he has nowhere to put that feeling. He cannot cry, he cannot admit failure, he cannot say, I'm not okay. So the stress just stays. It lives in his body. It raises his cortisol, it damages his heart, it breaks his sleep, it pushes him towards alcohol, towards smoking, toward every possible shortcut that offers him 5 minutes of relief and years of damage. And we call it lifestyle choices as if the lifestyle was his idea. The second thing is physical health negligence. Indian men are extraordinarily bad at going to the doctor. Studies consistently show that men delay seeking medical help far longer than women. They ignore symptoms, they push through the pain, they convince themselves it will pass, and by the time they finally go, what was manageable has become serious. What was treatable has become chronic. What could have been caught early had already spread. And this is not because men are stupid, it is because we have built a culture where going to a doctor feels like admitting weakness, where taking care of your body feels indulgent, where a man sitting at home sick is considered lazy, but a man pushing through sickness and going to the work anyway is considered strong. We have literally made self destruction look like virtue. I know men who have ignored chest pain for months, men who have not had a single health checkup in their 30s, men who are walking around with blood pressure numbers that should have them in a hospital. And they are at the office laughing it off, saying, I'm fine, I'm fine, I'm fine, until they are not. The third thing is loneliness, and this one I think is the most overlooked of all. There is a loneliness epidemic happening among Indian men right now, and it is completely invisible because men are supposed to be okay alone. Men are supposed to not need people, men are supposed to have their work, their responsibility, their roles, and that should be enough. But it is not enough. It has never been enough. Human beings are social creatures, and men are human beings. They need connection, they need intimacy, they need to feel known by someone other than their mother and their employer. The problem is that Indian men are genuinely not taught how to build emotional friendships. Male friendships in India tend to build around activity. You play cricket together, you drink together, you watch a match together, but sitting with a friend and saying, I'm really struggling right now, I feel like I'm failing, I'm scared, I do not know what I'm doing. That kind of conversation almost never happens between Indian men because that kind of conversation requires vulnerability, and vulnerability requires safety, and safety requires a culture that does not punish men for being human. And we do not have that culture yet. Now, here's the part that I want you to really sit with. This system, this culture that is slowly destroying men, it was not designed to help men, it was designed to make men useful for everyone else. To their families, to their employers, to the society. A man who does not complain, who does not need support, who just works and provides and handles everything quietly. The man is incredibly convenient for the world around him. He does not demand emotional labor, he does not require care, he does not ask for anything back. He just gives and gives and gives until there is nothing left. And then he dies young, and everyone says what a hard worker he was, what a dedicated man, what a good provider. And we call that a compliment. We should be calling it a tragedy. Now, I want to be very careful here because I know how these conversations can go. Talking about men's suffering does not mean ignoring women's suffering. The same patriarchal system that tells men not to cry is the same system that tells women to cry quietly and not bother anyone. The same culture that destroys men's emotional lives is the same culture that controls women's bodies and choices. These are not separate problems, these are the same problem wearing two different masks. But right now, I'm talking about men because the data is telling a story that we are refused to read. Because 72% of suicides being male is not a small problem. Because dying more than 3 years earlier on average is not something we should accept as normal. Because there are actual human beings behind these numbers, sons, fathers, brothers, friends, real people who deserved better than what we gave them. So, what do we actually do about this? The first thing is the most uncomfortable one. We have to let men be human. We have to stop treating male vulnerability as weakness and start treating it as courage, because it is actually much harder to say I'm not okay to say I'm fine. It takes more strength to ask for help than to suffer alone. We have the whole thing backwards. The second thing is we need proper mental health support that is easy to access and doesn't carry stigma, especially for men. The government has made a start. The National Suicide Prevention Strategy 2022 sets a target to reduce suicide deaths by 10% from the 2020 baseline. But a strategy on the paper is not same as a system on the ground. We need real implementation, trained counselors in every district, destigmatized community mental health centers, and helplines that are actually staffed and reachable, not just helpline numbers that nobody calls because calling feels like admitting defeat. Third thing is men need to build better friendships, real ones. Not just activity based companionship, but actual emotional intimacy with other men. And that starts with one honest conversation, one moment of saying, "This is hard, I'm not managing, I need to talk to someone," and it starts with the other person not looking away. And the fourth thing is, which I think the most important, is this: we need to stop measuring a man's worth by his productivity. A man who is resting is not lazy, a man who is struggling is not weak, a man who needs help is not less of a man. He's just a person, a tired, overwhelmed, completely human person who deserves the same compassion we would give to anyone else. When I started researching about this video, I honestly expected to find simple answers. I thought it would be about diet, smoking, or alcohol. And yes, those things are in the data, but the deeper I went, the more I realized that those are just symptoms. The real disease is what we have taught men to do with pain. We taught them to hide it, to push through it, to convert it into silence or into self destruction. And until we change that, the numbers will not change. Indian men are dying younger, they are dying lonely, they are dying quietly. And somewhere in your life right now, there is probably a man who you love is doing exactly that, carrying something heavy and not letting anyone because he thinks he is not supposed to. Maybe the most important thing you can do after watching this video is just ask him how he is really doing, and then actually wait for the honest answer.